Hi, so I'm Jacqui, I'm a Plumtree parent, and I'm going to share my little daughter Sophie's story of learning keyword signs so that she can communicate. So this is my little Sophie when she was about 2.5. She has a very rare genetic condition, a deletion on chromosome 17, and one of the genes in her deletion has a big effect on language development, speech development. So she's, when I did Now Next at the beginning of last year, Sophie was 3.5, and she had a couple of words and signs, but she was mostly relying on her magic pointer finger to communicate. So when we did Pictability, our big goal was for her to be able to communicate. And then when I did Now and Next, the first step, when I broke that big goal down into achievable and manageable steps, my first step was clear. I needed to coordinate Sophie's learning environments at home and at her preschool more, so that we could share what we were doing and work on the same goals at the same time. Oops, I missed a slide. So when I did Now and Next, Sophie and I just started working with Marg, who's here. And Marg's just outside the frame of the photo. Marg was teaching Sophie and me keyword signs, and so the complex coordination and skills involved in speaking wasn't proving possible for Sophie, but when Marg started teaching us keyword signs, Sophie started sparking. It was proving that she could do signing with her hands. So over the year that we worked with Marg until October last year, Sophie gradually learned and began using about 25 signs. She started with up and down and more and finished where, by, are you. She started colours and counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And she knew body parts, eyes, ears, mouth, nose. And then at the end of last year, Margaret Redmond from Plumtree began working with us at home too, immersing us in keyword signs, just talking to us completely with signing going on all the time. And over the summer holidays, I did lots of swimming, singing and signing with Sophie, and by February she had another 15 signs. Bubbles, I need my hands. Oops. So she learned bubbles, none, orange, blue, green, chicken, tiger, duck, rabbit, butterfly, pinky promise, jumping, monkeys, and aeroplane. So it was getting really exciting for me. She was really starting to take off. And then, oops. So at that point, the only signing communication partners she'd had was me and Marg, and then me and Margaret. But when she started to take off, I wanted to involve other people. So in February, I used NDIS funding so Sophie's dad and I could do a keyword sign training course. And we found a trainer through Keyword Sign New South Wales, Tanya Jarvis, and it was great. We did 2 3-hour workshops, and everyone in the workshop, after the first 3 hours, had learnt all the core vocabulary. And by the end of the second 3 hours, everyone in the workshop was able to sign with their talking. So, so with Sophie's dad signing, she took off even more. She was learning really quickly. She learnt, within a couple of weeks, she learnt book, dad, bear, turtle, yes and no, which is really, really important. Big, little, help, which is great. S for Sophie, and happy. Then in February this year, Margaret began working with Sophie at her preschool too. She was demonstrating using keyword signs with Sophie and the other kids, and the preschool staff could see that Sophie could communicate. And so Lucette and I, Lucette is the manager of Sophie's preschool, and we began talking about the possibility of keyword sign training for some of the staff. And we ended up organising with Tanya to hold a keyword sign course at the preschool. And so the course, Tanya teaches the course at home and has 8 people, and she's happy to go to other places and teach the course, and it's $105 per person plus $25 for the book. So the preschool paid for 4 of their staff, about $450, and I used NDIS funding, $700 to cover training 3 more of the preschool staff, because they all work with Sophie, and 3 friends who work with Sophie at home. So for $700, Sophie's whole world became a signing world. So she went from this to this. So Catherine, Laura and Kate work with Sophie at home. Laura is a musician and she teaches Sophie singing and music. So I don't have, my family are all interstate, so I put feelers out everywhere to see who was interested in working with Sophie, and I got lots of yeses back, and we started working with Laura, and Kate is an artist and she does lots of drawing and painting with Sophie, and Catherine's a Montessori teacher and she does lots of language and numbers and lots of other things with Sophie, and they all practice keyword sign with Sophie. So this is basically at home and this is basically at preschool. So the whole of her week she has people around her who she can communicate with using signs. And as she's signing, we can all understand her speech attempts as well. So she's making more speech attempts. So we're getting, she's succeeding a lot more, you know. So for a lot of other families, they might be really lucky and have an extended family in Sydney. And so if they wanted to run a training course, it could be an extended family, brothers and sisters. It could be if they have a grandma or granddad who looks after their child. So you could train everyone in one go. Tanya's happy to travel, anywhere pretty much on the south side of Sydney, I think, to do courses. And if anyone is interested in keyword sign for their child, I'm happy to talk with them more after. So this is, at the preschool, this is Soraya. They're teaching the kids keyword sign too. So the little kids are being Easter bunnies. So Sophie's keyword sign world will include the kids as well. So I could see that Sophie's always been a really joyful little kid, but I could see as soon as this happened at preschool, she was really happy in a new way. She'd come home from preschool, and I could see she was excited, communicative, and wanting to talk to me. And so I can see the result for her is really wonderful. She's becoming much more expressive and communicative, and so when we, at the end of last year, when our first NDIS plan began, Sophie had about 25 signs, and our goal was to get to 50. And by February, she'd already learnt another 25, and by June this year, just a little bit over halfway through her first NDIS year, she's got more than 100 signs. So some of my favourites are she can sign mum and love and jellyfish and frustrated. And she's combining sign words to say 3 to 5 word sentences. She can sing favourite lines of her songs, and she reads bedtime stories with me. And our current favourite is Cave Baby, and our favourite page, she signs Cave Baby said, "Please don't throw me to the tiger or the big brown bear." So when I had the goal at Now and Next of Sophie communicating, I honestly didn't know what was possible. And I'm still quite amazed that she's gone as far and as fast as she has. She's sort of rocketing along. And I think in a big part of that is training the people who are really dear to her and spend a lot of time with her, and she gets to practice with all those people she loves. So her motivation and her pleasure and her happiness is grown a lot. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.